thank y'all for coming in, man. This is Kevin Stone. Welcome to the Million. So this is what we talking about. The five most unforgivable mistakes Disney made with the Marvel Universe. And like I said before, I have a personal vendetta. This is very personal for me. If you don't know, I've mentioned before that, you know, I was an avid comic book collector back in the 90s as a kid, along with my older brother, our little friend group. We was all into, comics, collecting comic books, sci-fi movies, cartoons, Transformers, Voltron, Robotech, all of it. Eventually moved on to anime, but this is not about that. Before all that, it was comic books. And at that time, there was a few Marvel movies that had been made well before Disney had acquired the company. But, with small budgets and the CGI wasn't up to par back then, they wasn't that good. I remember this as a kid and, we would talk about this and we would talk about, one day that we just hoped that they would turn these comic books titles into high budget films and shows. When they began to do it, of course, we was excited. They did Spider-Man and then the X-Men movies. Some of the casting in the X-Men movies, I had an issue with it. I didn't have an issue with Tobey Maguire being Spider-Man, but regardless of the casting issues I had, I overlooked it. It wasn't a big issue because these movies were finally high budget films. It was quality visual effects, but we do remember these films were not produced by Disney. Disney acquired the company in 2009. And now I think about it, it's like ever since then, it's like that's when I began to lose interest in these Marvel movies. Things could have been done better in defense of the producers of the films. I know it wasn't easy, so I'm not gonna complain. But after so long of mistake after mistake, and tampering with the Marvel universe that we witnessed through the years, is like eventually it'll take its toll. And then you got to put your foot down and say enough is enough. Like I said, there were many things wrong in my opinion, pre and post Disney, but these here are the top five that I believe was the catalyst in breaking down the Marvel universe to this lackluster position that is in right now. So without further ado, the number one most unforgivable mistake. One, the handling of the X-Men franchise. Doing the X-Men movie, it was a great idea. I love X-Men. I love the comic book. I'm sure that X-Men is one of the most popular, if not the most popular superhero team in the Marvel universe. But that being said, because of that, it is imperative that you do the movies justice. I did have some issues with the casting for the beginning, but I'm not going to mention any of that. I'm going to talk about the story and the stories, right? Even the overall focus of the direction of what X-Men really was about in the comic books. X-Men, it was like a metaphorical reflection of racism and discrimination. You know what I'm saying? So it's like how the mutants were being discriminated against in America. It was a contrast of the African American plight, civil rights justice fight in the 60s. So with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and the mutants and Professor X fighting, the rights for mutants. So truthfully, that was removed from the plot in the movies. So in the X-Men movies, they began to make the focus of the movie all around the character Jean Grey. And that just wasn't the way the comic book was. You know what I mean? I can only remember one story that really was focused around her, and that was the Phoenix Saga. But it's like they took multiple X-Men movies and really focused it around, what she was going through and her feelings and relationships and, whatever else. But the comic book, it wasn't like that. Another problem with the X-Men franchise is that I think they tried to make it for everybody, being all the movies were PG-13, and I don't think it should have been done that way personally, right? I was talking to a friend of mine and about this, and my friend they had said everything isn't for everybody. You know what? And I thought about it, and I agree. I agree with that because when you do that, you have to water down the characters and you have to water down the story. And when you do that, that's when the problems occur. Like Wolverine, for instance, Wolverine in the comic books, he gonna get savage, right? Wolverine, he got the animanium claws, stabbing through flesh or killing or whatever. In the movies, all of the movies are PG-13. So Wolverine can't really cut flesh or kill people. I don't think that it really gives justice to the full dynamics of what the whole story is about. The title X-Men was more focused on doing movies for everybody. Like, while sprinkling in their agenda, and obviously racism was not on their agenda because they cut that out the story, right? They was focused on selling toys and merchandise, but not foreseeing in the long run, you're just playing a short game because they need to find out why these titles have lasted 60 to 70 years. And when they figure that out, then they'll have something. But, until then, we'll keep running into these same issues. That's the number one most unforgivable mistake. So these are not in order, right? Because number two is really number one for me. And this is a personal one. I told y'all before, this is personal, right? The number two most unforgivable mistake made with the Marvel Universe was the depiction of Apocalypse in the film X-Men Apocalypse. Not to mention that this was a horrible movie, and this can go into number one as a debacle of an X-Men film. But I'm not talking about X-Men right now. I'm talking about my favorite villain in the Marvel Universe and how he was depicted in the movie. It was totally unforgivable. And, they had the nerve to subtitle the movie after him, right? This being, this was his first debut on the big screen, and this was totally disrespectful. They made him some sort of ancient Egyptian god. It was crazy. A villain who's all powerful. He got all powerful powers. He's disintegrating people or whatever, but he's only effective on harmless humans. Somehow he wasn't able to turn one mutant into sand the whole movie. You know, I guess since he was the father of mutants in this movie, he vowed not to kill any of them. Not the Apocalypse from the comic book. Hence the name Apocalypse. He literally wants to destroy everything. He was supposed to be the Thanos of the X-Men franchise, but they just blew it, really. And so, recently, I've seen some rumors and heard some things of certain adaptations of Apocalypse online that they talk about bringing him back. Not sure if any of it is real. It definitely looks a lot better, but this better never happen again, Disney. You know what I'm saying? Y'all better get this under control. I tell you that. I wonder what Mike Tyson thought about this. Apocalypse is Mike Tyson's favorite character too.
This is the man, but listen, who created Apocalypse?
Me.
You created him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my best hero.
I know you, and he's a villain.
When I saw this, I said, "Oh, me and Mike Tyson got some things in common. Similar taste in clothes, and I throw hands like Tyson too. You hear me, Disney? Number 3, unforgivable mistake: turning villains into heroes. And at the top of my mind, I'm thinking Venom. Venom was not a hero, right? At least he didn't start off like that. In fact, he was pretty insidious. He was a vicious killer. Even Eddie Brock wasn't a good guy. Yeah, he was a crazy criminal. He hated Peter Parker. He'd do anything to destroy Peter Parker. You know what I'm saying? But this goes back to Disney wanting to make movies for everybody. And I see them doing this a lot. They did it with Morpheus on the movie, making him a hero. He was completely evil. And they recently did it on season 2 of the Loki series. Loki was not a hero. It was nothing good about Loki in the comic books. Never. And I thought about this, and why would they continually keep doing this? And this is what I think it is. I wonder why the film companies seem to always put the worst, most unpopular villains in these franchise superhero movies. DC, they do it more than anybody, but Marvel does it too. But I realize it's because they want to turn the popular villains into heroes. So when they make a film, they can make the film for everybody. Bad idea. You know what I'm saying? Stop it, Disney. DC, you stop it too. My God, DC, please stop. But I haven't seen DC turn any villains into heroes. That's why they always seem to, choose the most obscure villains they can find to put in these films. In my mind, I'm thinking you should do the films according to the popularity of the characters, and really it needs to stop how they doing it. And that's all I got to say about it. Number four, most unforgivable mistake, how they depicted some of my favorite villains. One being Mandarin. The way they depicted Mandarin in the MCU films, it was a total disgrace. Mandarin is a evil wizard overlord, and they watered him down to some sort of terrorist. Apparently, the guy isn't even Asian, maybe, Middle Eastern or something. I don't know. But, they teased the character. You barely saw him in like two different movies. Then the Iron Man 3, they put him on the cover of the promotion, right? And, we thinking, okay, we finally finna see this guy in live action. And come to find out, this Mandarin is actually not even a terrorist. He's an actor. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't make this up, man. And he's a coward at that. And, Mandarin in the comic book, sometimes he would give Iron Man the business. So, he's very powerful. I mean, he fought Wolverine. He fought the whole Avengers. I mean, the dude is off the chain, right? They use this opportunity to pick him in this way. And I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. Then to add insult to injury, they put the character on the Shang-Chi movie, and somehow his famous 10 rings, they turn them into 10 armbands. The 10 rings, they got black light, ice blast, all types of power, right? But these armbands, they somehow turned into like glorified yo-yos or frisbees or glowing frisbees or something, right? I don't know. It's just crazy, man. They asked the producers, of the film, why did they change the 10 ring idea? And apparently they claimed that the 10 rings would look too cheesy or something in a live action film. So they got the armband idea from the 36 chambers. I didn't even correlate that when I seen the Shang-Chi. It didn't remind me of the armbands on 36 chambers. But this is my thoughts about that. If you can't make the original powers from his rings look cool, then maybe you shouldn't be doing comic book movies. But I digress, right? Now, the fifth most unforgivable mistake Disney has made in the Marvel Cineverse, and that is changing the gender of certain popular characters. I can't say this method has been successful for Disney. But one thing, like I said before, comic books, even action films, are mostly male oriented interests. Not saying that a lot of women don't collect comic books or know anything about this, but realistically, it's mostly a male dominated hobby, right? Even going to the movies in general. I mean, for instance, when you go on a date, who typically asks and takes who to the movies? It's typically men, especially in action films or any blockbuster films. It's the men who take the women and the children. So I don't get why Disney will want to continually make these type of changes. In my mind, I think it's some sort of political agenda or maybe, but I don't think women even like these movies. I mean, using male comic book characters for some sort of feminist women's empowerment thing. And, we don't have a problem with women's empowerment, but we want to be realistic to a certain degree and do things that make sense. For one, action movies is not typically a female interest. So action movies should most likely be catering mostly to men. That's not being sexist. That just makes sense. Now Disney wants to spend their money on action movies aimed at women, in which we all see the results. So don't blame it on superhero fatigue. Blame it on the decisions that you made, the movies that you greenlighted, the characters that you greenlighted, and the lack of success that came along with your decisions. Let's get to some of the characters that I'm speaking on, right? For one, I'm thinking of how they did Taskmaster in Black Widow. You know, you can make these characters have a small place in the Marvel universe, but Taskmaster had his own comic book. He was a cool character. His name was Tony Masters. He was a tough guy, a mercenary, man stuff. Long do I miss the days when, masculinity was celebrated and promoted on television. We had our shows that mostly guys watched, and the girls had shows that they watched. We had He Man, they had She-Ra. We used to watch Transformers, G.I. Joe. They had My Little Pony or something. I don't know, right? But you get the point. Like I said earlier, everything isn't for everybody. When you do that, you water down the stories that people love and grew up on. And when you do that, the results is usually a failing project. I hope Disney has learned their lesson, but I don't think they have. They tend to continually make these true diehard fans suffer for their stupid decisions. And it's like they're doing it on purpose. They really want to stick it to us. Like maybe that's what it is. Maybe the feminists at Disney are trying to stick it to us. The men who love comic books, they're going to take our beloved characters and they're going to show you how they can have the power to turn your world upside down. We're going to bring your beloved MCU burning to the ground. Maybe that's what it is because they're blatantly they put it in your face. Look at Iron Man 3, the way that they promoted Mandarin. Look at Black Widow, the way they promoted Taskmaster. They get it's like they promote in a certain type of way where they get your hopes up and you thinking that you're gonna see your one of your favorite characters displayed on the screen, and then they come and totally pull the rug from up under you. It then pass it off as it was some sort of brilliant plot twist we should all enjoy. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a cruel joke. It's nuts. And then they try to explain it away as if we love this great idea. And we keep saying, no, Disney, we hated it. And they keep doing it over and over and over again. I think they may be trying to torture us. But hey, what say you? That's it. That's my 5 unforgettable mistakes Disney made with the Marvel Universe. What are y'all thoughts on this? You love it? You hate it? What grinds your wheels about what Disney done to the Marvel Universe? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm interested in seeing what y'all got to say about this. Once again, like and subscribe to support the channel. It's much appreciated. And check out some of my other videos. It's some interesting commentary on the subject. Until then, I'm going to see you next time. Peace.